The Strait of Hormuz is a very important water passage in the Middle East. It sits between two countries, Iran on the north side and Oman on the south side. The United Arab Emirates also has land next to this water passage. This strait is like a bridge that connects two big bodies of water. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. The Persian Gulf is where many oil-rich countries are located. The Gulf of Oman leads to the Arabian Sea and then to the big Indian Ocean. This makes the strait very special because it is the only way for ships to go from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. The strait is about 90 miles long, which is like driving for about 2 hours. At its narrowest point, it is only 21 miles wide. This is very narrow for such an important water passage. At the widest point, it is about 55 miles across. The water is deep enough for very big ships to pass through safely. There are several islands in the Strait of Hormuz. The biggest islands are called Keshem, Hormuz, and Hengam. Most of these islands belong to Iran. Some islands are disputed, which means different countries say they own them. The strait gets its name from Hormuz Island, which was once home to an important ancient trading city. Ships must be very careful when they travel through this narrow passage. There are special shipping lanes that ships must follow to be safe. The water is deep, about 200 feet on average, so big oil tankers can pass through. This narrow passage handles some of the most important shipping in the world. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important places in the world for oil and gas trade. About 20% of all the world's oil passes through this narrow waterway every day. This means that 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil that people use around the world comes through this strait. In 2024, about 20 million barrels of oil move through the strait each day. Many countries depend on oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Countries like India get almost half of their oil from Gulf countries, and this oil must pass through the strait. Japan, China, and South Korea also get much of their oil through this passage. If the strait were closed, these countries would have big problems getting the oil they need. The strait is also very important for natural gas. About 1/3 of all the world's liquefied natural gas passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Natural gas is used to heat homes and make electricity in many countries. Without this gas, many people would not have power for their homes and businesses. Ships carry many other things through the strait besides oil and gas. There are container ships that carry clothes, food, electronics, and many other products that people buy every day. The ports near the strait, like Jebel Ali in Dubai, are some of the busiest ports in the world. These ports help connect trade between Asia, Europe, and Africa. The strait is so important that it is called a choke point. This means that if something happened to block the strait, it would cause big problems for the whole world. Oil prices would go up very quickly, and many countries would have trouble getting the energy they need. This is why many countries watch the strait very carefully and want to keep it safe and open for all ships. 3 main countries control the Strait of Hormuz: Iran, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. Each country has land next to the water, so they all have some control over what happens in the strait. Iran has the longest coastline along the strait and controls the northern side. Iran also controls most of the islands in the strait. Iran is the biggest country next to the strait. Iran has important ports like Bandar Abbas, which is one of the main ports on the Persian Gulf. Iran's navy uses bases near the strait to watch over the water. Iran has said many times that it could close the strait if there was a war. In June 2025, Iran's parliament voted to consider closing the strait after attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. Oman controls the southern part of the strait. Oman has a special area called Musandam that sticks out into the strait like a finger. This gives Oman good control over ships passing through. Oman is usually a peaceful country that tries to stay out of conflicts. It works with other countries to keep the strait safe for shipping. The United Arab Emirates also has coastline along the strait. The UAE has very important ports like Dubai and Jebel Ali. Many ships stop at these ports to load and unload goods. The UAE is a rich country because of oil and trade. It wants to keep the strait open because much of its wealth comes from trade that passes through water. All three countries must work together to keep the strait safe. International law says that ships from all countries should be able to pass through safely. However, the countries sometimes disagree about the rules. The United States and other powerful countries also send Navy ships to the area to make sure the strait stays open. This sometimes creates tension between the local countries and foreign navies. The Strait of Hormuz is the most important place in the world for oil trade. Every day, huge ships called oil tankers carry millions of barrels of oil through the strait. These tankers are some of the biggest ships in the world, and they can carry enough oil to fill thousands of cars. The oil comes from countries around the Persian Gulf, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and the UAE. Saudi Arabia sends more oil through the strait than any other country. In 2024, Saudi Arabia moved about 5.5 million barrels of oil per day through the strait. This oil goes to countries all over the world, especially in Asia. Countries like China, Japan, and India buy huge amounts of this oil to run their factories and power their cars. The strait is also very important for natural gas. Natural gas is a clean fuel that many countries use instead of coal. The gas is made very cold and turned into a liquid, so it can be shipped in special tanker ships. About 20% of all the world's natural gas trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. This gas heats homes and makes electricity in many countries around the world. Oil prices around the world depend on what happens in the Strait of Hormuz. When there are problems or threats in the area, oil prices go up quickly. In June 2025, oil prices jumped from $69 to $74 per barrel in just one day because of tensions in the region. If the strait were ever closed, experts think oil prices could go up to $100 or even $150 per barrel. The countries around the Gulf have built some pipelines to avoid using the strait. Saudi Arabia has a big pipeline that can carry 5 million barrels per day to the Red Sea. The UAE also has a pipeline that goes around the strait. However, these pipelines cannot carry as much oil as the ships, so the strait is still very important. Most of the oil and gas from the Gulf region has no choice but to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Every day, more than 100 ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz. These ships carry oil, gas, containers full of goods, and many other things. The ships range from small fishing boats to giant oil tankers that are longer than 3 football fields. Between June 12th and 17th, 2025, an average of 116 large ships pass through the strait each day. The biggest ships that use the strait are called very large crude carriers, or VLCCs. These huge ships can carry 2 million barrels of oil at one time. There are also smaller tankers that carry refined oil products like gasoline and diesel fuel. Gas tankers carry liquefied natural gas in special tanks that keep the gas very cold. Container ships carry thousands of metal boxes filled with clothes, electronics, toys, and other products. Ships must follow special rules when they go through the strait. There are 2 shipping lanes, one for ships going each direction. Each lane is only about 2 miles wide, so ships must be very careful. The International Maritime Organization makes the rules that all ships must follow. Ships use GPS and radar to know exactly where they are, but sometimes there are problems with GPS signals in the area. The ports near the strait are some of the busiest in the world. Jebel Ali Port in Dubai handles millions of containers every year. Ships from all over the world come to these ports to pick up oil or drop off goods. The ports have huge cranes that can lift containers off ships very quickly. Many of the goods then go to other ships or trucks to be taken to their final destinations. During times of tension, fewer ships want to go through the strait. Ship owners worry about the safety of their crews and cargo. Some shipping companies have stopped sending ships through the area when there are threats of war. This causes delays in getting oil and goods to where they need to go. It also makes shipping more expensive because ships have to take longer routes. The Strait of Hormuz has been important for trade for over 1,000 years. Ancient traders used this waterway to carry spices, silk, and other valuable goods between Asia and Europe. The strait was part of the famous Silk Road trade routes that connected different parts of the world. Even in ancient times, people knew that controlling the strait meant controlling a lot of trade and wealth. The Kingdom of Hormuz was established in the 10th century and became very powerful. This kingdom controlled trade through the strait for several centuries. The name Hormuz comes from this ancient kingdom. The kingdom's capital was probably on Hormuz Island, near where the modern Iranian city of Bandar Abbas is located today. At its strongest point, the Kingdom of Hormuz had up to 500 ships in its navy. In 1507, Portuguese explorers conquered Hormuz Island. The Portuguese wanted to control the spice trade between India and Europe. They built a strong fortress on the island and made all ships pay taxes to pass through. The Portuguese controlled the strait for more than 100 years. During this time, they fought many battles with the Ottoman Empire, which also wanted to control this important waterway. In the 1600s, the British became interested in the strait because of their trade with India. Later, the discovery of oil in the region made the strait even more important. In the 1900s, as cars and airplanes became common, oil became one of the most valuable things in the world. The countries around the Persian Gulf became very rich because of their oil. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, both countries attacked ships in the strait. This was called the Tanker War because so many oil tankers were damaged or sunk. The United States Navy sent ships to protect oil tankers during this time. In 1988, the U.S. Navy accidentally shot down an Iranian passenger airplane, killing 290 people. These events show how dangerous the strait can become during times of war. The Strait of Hormuz and the waters around it are home to many different kinds of sea animals. The warm, shallow waters provide a good place for fish, dolphins, and other marine life to live. Green sea turtles and hawksbill turtles swim in these waters. There are also dugongs, which are large sea mammals that look like small whales. Many different types of fish live in the strait. The fishing industry is the second most important business in the region after oil and gas. Local fishermen catch fish that feed their families and are sold in markets. Some countries have made agreements with other nations to help improve their fishing methods and catch more fish. Iran has said that fish in the Gulf could be as valuable as oil, though this might be too hopeful. The strait is also important for birds. Many birds fly over the water or rest on the islands. Dalmatian pelicans, pygmy cormorants, and other seabirds can be seen in the area. The islands in the strait provide safe places for birds to build their nests. Some of these birds travel very long distances and use the strait as a stopping point during their journeys. Whale sharks, which are the biggest fish in the world, also swim through the strait. These gentle giants eat tiny sea creatures and are not dangerous to people. Scientists study these whale sharks to learn about their movements and behavior. The strait is part of an important path that whale sharks use as they swim between different parts of the ocean. However, the environment around the strait faces many problems. Oil spills from tankers can harm sea life and pollute the water. The heavy ship traffic creates noise that can disturb marine animals. Plastic waste and other garbage from ships also pollute the water. During the Gulf War in 1991, oil was deliberately spilled into the Persian Gulf, causing major environmental damage. Climate change is also making the water warmer, which affects the animals and plants that live there. The Strait of Hormuz is often at the center of political tensions in the Middle East. Iran has threatened many times to close the strait if other countries attack it. In June 2025, Iran's parliament voted to consider closing the strait after the United States attacked Iranian nuclear facilities. However, the final decision would need to be made by Iran's supreme leader. The United States keeps Navy ships in the area to make sure the strait stays open. The U.S. Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain and watches over the strait. American leaders say they will not let Iran close this important waterway. Other countries like the United Kingdom, France, and Germany also send ships to help keep the strait safe. This creates tension because Iran sees these foreign ships as a threat. Different countries disagree about the laws that apply in the strait. Iran and the United States are not part of an important treaty called UNCLOS, which sets rules for how countries can use the oceans. This makes it unclear what rights each country has in the strait. Iran says it can control who passes through its territorial waters, while other countries say all ships should be allowed to pass freely. The small islands in the strait are also sources of conflict. Iran controls most of the islands, but the United Arab Emirates says that 3 of them should belong to the UAE. These islands are called Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb. Iran has soldiers on these islands, which gives it more control over the strait. The UAE wants these islands back, but Iran refuses to give them up. Military incidents sometimes happen in the strait. In 1988, the U.S. Navy shot down an Iranian airliner by mistake. In 2007, an American submarine hit a Japanese oil tanker underwater. More recently, there have been problems with GPS signals being jammed, which makes it harder for ships to navigate safely. These incidents show how dangerous the area can be when tensions are high. When there are problems in the Strait of Hormuz, people all over the world feel the effects. Oil and gas prices go up quickly when there are threats to close the strait. This makes gasoline more expensive for people who drive cars. It also makes electricity more expensive because many power plants use oil or gas. Countries that buy oil from the Middle East are most affected by problems in the strait. India gets about 90% of its oil from other countries, and almost half of this comes from Gulf countries through the strait. China, Japan, and South Korea also depend heavily on oil that passes through the strait. If the strait were closed, these countries would have to find oil from other places, which would be more expensive. The shipping industry also suffers when there are problems in the strait. Ship owners have to pay more for insurance when their ships go through dangerous areas. Some shipping companies decide not to send their ships through the strait at all during tense times. This means goods take longer to reach their destinations and cost more to transport. In June 2025, freight rates increased by 55% because of tensions in the region. This means it costs much more money to ship goods through the area. Container shipping rates from Shanghai to Dubai went up significantly. These higher costs eventually get passed on to consumers, making products more expensive in stores around the world. The global economy can be seriously damaged if the strait is closed for a long time. Oil prices could rise to $100 or $150 per barrel, compared to about $76 per barrel in normal times. This would cause inflation, meaning everything becomes more expensive. Countries might have to use more coal for energy, which would be bad for the environment. Stock markets around the world would likely fall because investors would be worried about higher energy costs. The Strait of Hormuz will continue to be very important in the future, but it faces many challenges. Climate change is making the region hotter and causing more extreme weather. Rising sea levels could affect the ports and coastal areas around the strait. Changes in temperature and ocean currents might also affect the marine life in the area. New technology is changing how ships travel through the strait. Better GPS systems and satellite tracking help ships navigate more safely. However, there are also new threats like GPS jamming, which can confuse ship navigation systems. Pirates and terrorists might use new technologies to attack ships, so security needs to keep improving. Countries are looking for ways to reduce their dependence on oil that passes through the strait. Some are building more pipelines that go around the strait. Saudi Arabia and the UAE already have pipelines that can carry some oil without going through the strait. Other countries are investing in renewable energy like solar and wind power. This would reduce the world's need for oil and make the strait less critical. International cooperation is important for keeping the strait safe and open. Countries need to work together to prevent conflicts and solve disputes peacefully. Better communication between Iran and other countries could help reduce tensions. International organizations might need to create clearer rules about how the strait should be used. The future of the Strait of Hormuz depends on whether countries can learn to share this important waterway peacefully. As the world's population grows and more countries need energy, the strait will become even more important. New discoveries of oil and gas in the region might increase traffic through the strait. However, if countries invest in clean energy and find alternative shipping routes, the strait might become less critical over time. The most important thing is that all countries work together to keep this vital waterway safe and open for everyone.